Great. So we're also in the autonomy world, but for flying things. I'm the chief commercial officer. I was a MIT 14 in Aeroastro. Um, our founder and CEO Hector was a PhD student around the same time as me in Aeroastro, and probably about a quarter of our company at this point, of like 50 people or so, um, went to MIT at some point. So definitely a good amount of connection there. The problem we're solving generally is that um, vertical flight, small aircraft are really wonderful, valuable tools for moving people and things around. But there's a huge safety gap and cost gap between these types of aircraft and what we think of for, in the passenger airline world or bigger categories of aircraft. These are orders of magnitude more unsafe, much more expensive, which really limits their use to VIP or emergency situations. So what we're trying to do is focus on our kind of thesis is that autonomy is the unlock that will allow much more accessible and cost-effective operation of this whole class of vertical lift aircraft and allow us to scale to more use cases. And we're focused today on what is the minimal way to demonstrate that. And it's with a retrofit. Our first product is a retrofit autonomy system on an existing certified aircraft, which I'll talk about in a second. But this makes it compatible with future aircraft, and it's really designed for pure uncrewed operation in the near run, hazardous missions, agriculture, utility, offshore. I'll describe a little bit in the future. But this lets us get to market much faster, right? As opposed to waiting 5 to 10 years for certification. With the FAA, we can get started with these use cases with a compelling safety case to use uncrewed aircraft this year. So just to give you a sense of what this looks like, I'll play a little snippet of this video, which is on YouTube, and you can watch later if you like. So here's this is about half the size of our actual aircraft from our flight test last year. Anyway, so we have about 50, 60 hours on these helicopters already. So they're very much flying around. Our first product, and they're at 5 test sites in the Northeast. We're based in New Hampshire in the Boston area. So our first product is actually going to be much bigger than that. It's going to be based on an existing aircraft, like I mentioned, called the Robinson R-44. We're partnered with Robinson, which is kind of the highest rate helicopter manufacturer in the world. And I'll actually show the whole thing. What happens when we do this retrofit is that roughly double the payload. So you turn it into a helicopter, which has the performance of an aircraft 2 or 3 times the cost. And it allows it to do all sorts of things that existing helicopters don't do, like fly at night, fly in bad weather, and obviously carry a lot more payload and go a lot further. This will be the largest civilian uncrewed VTOL out there, to our knowledge. So like I said, we're starting out with these kind of dull, dirty, dangerous missions. Let's call them agriculture, utility, think about firefighting, specialty logistics. So there's maybe 5,000, 6,000 aircraft that fit this characteristic in our target category today. This allows us to get started, with people who are highly motivated, have a safety case today. Long run, we're looking to do a lot more than that. We've already demonstrated the ability to fly these aircraft autonomously over satellite and cellular communications from a few thousand miles away. So that's how we operate these today. And that unlocks much lower cost and higher pilot utilization. But we're moving to a multi-vehicle supervisor model over time and a much higher level of autonomy. So what the autonomy is, when I say that, is it's basically a fly-by-wire system that we retrofit on, a perception system for the aircraft to understand what's around it using vision, radar, and LiDAR, a communication system for it to talk to the ground, and then human-machine interface. Those are kind of the four elements. So to summarize, we're building autonomy for vertical takeoff and landing, starting with these hazardous missions, eventually trying to move around people and things at scale, hopefully unlocking a lot more accessibility and safety in these aircraft, like we've come to expect bigger aircraft. So our ask is, if there's anybody that has partnership use cases in agriculture, offshore, utility, that sort of thing for heavy drones, we're very interested to talk.
Thanks, Ben. Great. I know there's several applications. So again, a reminder to post your questions. I'll start with one. How do you compete with other electrical vertical takeoff and landing players, aircraft manufacturers, etc.? How are you different from them?
I mean, yes, great question. So a bunch of things. I mean, I would love to see those aircraft succeed too. I think it's very complementary. We're not building a new aircraft from scratch. We're partnered with an existing high rate aircraft manufacturer. So I think that allows us to get to market now. We're doing a revenue flying this summer, as opposed to having a 5 to 10 year certification gap. We're not building a new airframe, like I mentioned, so that's a big difference. Because we're using existing helicopter, which is a much more efficient configuration. I think we have the same payload as a Joby aircraft, but about half the weight, for example, and a much higher, probably 10x higher endurance. So I mean, I think we're also not going after a passenger use case in the near run and not flying over cities. So that we're targeting more of these utility use cases to start, to gain experience and prove out the durability and reliability. So I think there's a bit of a go-to-market difference. Maybe in 10 years, we'll end up converging to them.
And are you ready to fly in controlled airspace?
I think that's more a regulatory question than a technical question. I think we believe really strongly in our detect and avoid approach, which mentioned, uses existing, degrades gracefully to existing technology, ADS-B, VoIP relay of VHF radio. We also have a vision and LiDAR-based approach. So I think I think that's a question that we're not really in the driver's seat for. But when the NAS opens up, I think we'll be able to operate there.